All right, good morning, everyone. We are going to get started, and I'm actually, if y'all don't mind, just because I do have a quorum right now, I will be taking things a little bit out of order. So El Centro, if you don't mind to go second, since yours is just a presentation, we'll take the ordinance first.
Donna? Oh, I found it, never mind.
First, I'll approve the minutes, though, from last meeting. It's been moved by Councilmember Morrell, seconded by Councilmember Harris. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank y'all. And then we'll take up item number 4, which is calendar number 35177. This is timely payments to subcontractors and suppliers. So this came about with different conversations that I've had with subcontractors, where they have seen, obviously, that we move forward with Net 30 legislation and the policy where the city has to pay primes within 30 days. And so we've been doing a much better job at paying primes within 30 days, but then the primes haven't moved forward with paying their subs and DVEs in a timely manner. So this adds to the Net 30 legislation that now not only is the city supposed to pay primes within 30 days, the primes will now be required to pay their subs, all undisputed costs, within 30 days. So that's what this does, and I want to thank really the administration, Sadie in my office, but more than anything, the collaborative for bringing this to my attention and bringing me examples of this to my attention so that we can figure out a path to fix this. I always appreciate how involved you all are in engaging with the City Council to try to overall make things better, particularly for when it comes to our small businesses and our Black and minority businesses as well. So if no one else has opening comments, I will turn it over to whoever wants to start the presentation.
I will start. Good morning,
Good morning.
everyone. I am Deborah Gould, a member of the Collaborative and charter member. I'd like to say thank you to the whole council and the administration for really listening and hearing the business community and what makes it so hard to do business with the city of New Orleans when you put together a prime and a sub. So we have 4 points that we would like to address. I would, in the order of number 1, followed by Ernest Starbird, 2 and 3, and I will close out on number 4. So again, thank you all this morning to present this timely payment of the subs. And so just basically, just to give just a little overview in terms of some background, as Councilwoman Helena Moreno has mentioned, we're talking about here pretty much the background. It happened pretty much around July 2025. We had the candid conversation in terms of the issues that are facing timely payment for our DBEs in the city of New Orleans. So the very first issue that came to our attention in the conversation is the issues that subcontractors are having with timely payments from prime contractors. Pay the subs. That's all we're asking. Pay the subs in that Net 30. You're utilizing a good tool called the BRASS system. You're working closely with the Office of Supplier Diversity. Many a times when we have gone into contracts, there are a DBE program plan. So you already know in the city Bureau of Purchasing and Finance who that prime and those subs. There should be some types of notification tickler within 12, 15 working days that a check is being processed for that prime, then let's pay that sub at the same time. So we're simply saying pay the prime, pay the sub when you pay that prime. The other point I wanted to make here is the unaware that the prime has been paid. Many a time your subs are just not aware of that prime unless you're actually calling the accounting department. We shouldn't have to take that after producing the products and services and working closely to build that relationship with that prime, that we shouldn't have to chase down getting paid. And many a times you're calling that prime, you're not getting, they're non-responsive, which forces that sub to have to go to the city to find out, well, when did you pay the prime? That communication should constantly be happening. And the last bullet point under this number one, this issue, professional service contracts have many delays. You've had subs or even primes, and I've been in a prime situation where I've competed with other folks with a particular agency, won the contract, made the short list, presented, and been waiting for months for the contract award to start because either the requester has delayed for whatever reason and the board has not approved it. So this is a situation that professional services, whether it's facilitating, training, executive coaching, is looking to start that particular project. But they're not because of delays. So that is one situation that is happening often that never come to the council or administration. This is business as unusual, folks, and we need to be paid for the services and products that we have decided. We're trying to build capacity, and we can't get there if folks are not paying us in that net 30. And the troubling thing about this net 30 in this particular ordinance here is that when you have that dispute with that prime, it goes deeper. It's no longer a net 30, it's now 60 days, 80 days, 90 days. And although this ordinance speaks to the conversation that you will have, that prime meeting with the players within a 10-day window, it's now, you waited a net 30, and for God Almighty, I don't understand what is this net 30? Who picked this out of the sky? I'm concerned that if I'm going into a July situation but started that relationship in February, I'm already in professional services doing the work. So I put my invoice in, we have 30 net days, but then there's a question. So that turned into another 10 days. It's now 40, 50 days. So at that point, I'm going to end on the number one issue that subcontractors are having with timely payment with prime, and turn it over to Ernest to address number 2 and 3.
Thank you, and I appreciate you guys having us and giving us some time this morning. My name is Ernest Stolbert. My company is Bethany Builders, LLC, and I'm one of the founding members of the collaborative. Some of you guys up there are business owners. So you understand this whole process of doing work and getting paid. But I was just trying to drill down a little more on it. This council has been very good in helping to write and approve legislation for DBEs. And as we're going out through the community to talk to the DBEs, to encourage them to participate in all the programs, we have literally had to really, really work with them to encourage them to participate. They are discouraged. We have to get over our hump. That hump is to have confidence that they're going to get paid, that they're going to get paid on time. As you guys well know, in the past, subs that have had problems with their primes would come to the city, and the city will literally tell them, and they will correct at the time, we can't help you because you're not contracted with us. You're contracted with that prime, go back to him. So the city had no leverage to help that subcontractor get paid. This bill, this piece of legislation changed that. It's the first time it has been addressed where subs have some recourse if that prime is not paying a legitimate invoice and that prime has been paid himself. So we really, really like what's happening here. With subcontractors who are generally small contractors, 1 or 2 problematic contracts can put them out of business. It doesn't take much. If they get stuck in a job and they can't get paid for some period of time, cash flow will dry up. They will literally have to fold and go out of business. And that's unfortunate because what we're trying to do is to grow them, to keep them in business, and to help them to succeed. One of the examples I give people is that as a general contractor or as a contractor in general, you work 30 days, then you put in an invoice. The city, the owner comes out, they review the work, they approve that invoice. There's 30 days, another 30 days before that invoice is paid. That's 60 days. So the prime finally get paid in 60 days if it's timely. And then he has 15 more days to pay the sub. That sub is strung out for 75 days if everything goes right. That's if everything goes well. So if it doesn't go well and that prime doesn't pay him, even though the prime's been paid, he's not only have to continue doing the work, but now he's still waiting 80, 90, sometime up to 100 days. Very few subs can withstand that. That's why this legislation is really so important. Cash flow is really what determines how many jobs a company can take. Most companies do not live off of one job, one contract. They run multiple jobs at a time. That's the only way you can cover your overhead, keep your people moving, your people working, and get consistent income. But to do that, you've got cash flow on one job, cash flow on the next job, cash flow on the third job, and that's quite substantial if you're a small business. So if one job screws up and you're not getting paid, all of a sudden you're in a deficit cash flow wise. And then you have to decide, what am I going to do? It affects the employees, it affects his creditors, it even affects his bond if he has one. So this issue is really, really important. And this is the first time I've seen us take the issue of subcontractors being paid and put something in place for them. And I'm really excited about this. And again, even when it's passed, we've got to go back out and convince the subs you can participate in this program because the city's got your back. Thank you.
Is that both your two and
That's two. Oh, yeah. Well, yeah, that's both of them.
Okay.
Thank you. That was
So
item
as
2
I
and item
conclude,
3. I'm
thank you,
sorry.
Ernest.
Sure.
And again, I did not mention for the full council, I am Deborah Gould, and my company is Deborah Gould and Associates Inc., a management consulting and training firm. And thank you, Ernest, for really elaborating on the points of 2 and 3. But we close with number 4, other items of relevance and concern regarding timely contractor payment. I thank this particular council and the tremendous work that we've seen here with the administration. This ordinance 35177 is going to be a history-making. It's going to make a difference. It's an enforcement. And we're finally, as a small business, women, small business, and minority businesses saying someone is listening, because this is an issue when small businesses are spending close to 120 days to get paid. We don't know who to talk to in accounts payable, and we're stuck with loans to make payroll, to kind of keep our employees engaged, the morale sometime, in terms of the loyalty. People that's been with you for many, many years, 25 plus years, and say, what is happening that we've gone into a situation with the prime, they're paid, but we can't get paid. So the impact of other items that's relevant is pretty much that most small businesses enter into these contractor agreements with our prime to know that we're trying to do this to build capacity so we can grow from 5 employees to perhaps 50. Have a strategic plan that we can grow our business to 150 or more, or different types of diversify our businesses. But when one contract can mess you up, you're fighting legal issues that ties all of your creativity and innovation to grow your business and to have a difference in the economic development of your employees and your communities and your business growth. So those are things that we hear from other business owners that decide, I'm gonna stop doing business in Orleans, in the domicile of Orleans, and go to other parishes. And we're trying as a collaborative to persuade them You have to have a voice and stand up and make a difference for the next generation. When you have put your children, your sweat equity in the business, that this is a lasting legacy, that small businesses are the cornerstone that create the wealth in America. So you cannot just give up. We got to address the policies. We're going to continue as the collaborative to be the advocates for the voices who are silent. So with that being said, we're just saying some of the relevant issues are like anybody else. We want to build capacity. Not everybody is going to take an employment opportunity, but we have taken the risk to become those, seeking those contracting opportunities so we can make a difference in the community. And with that being said, I would like to just close by saying to Councilwoman Helena Moreno and to each of you, thank you for investing the time for us to come in on regular meetings to create this masterpiece, and the eyes that need to review it is going to sign off on it, and this community is going to recognize that finally someone is listening to the small business community in the city of New Orleans. Thank you all for giving us the collaborative a voice this morning.
Thank you, Deborah and Ernest. Councilmember Thomas, I see your buttons pushed. Sadie is going to walk us through the ordinance. Do you want to go before or after her?
Yeah, let me go before, especially since there's something that Dominique and Sadie, I hope, will work on together after my comments. First of all, thank you for this piece. I want to thank the collaborative. And as always, Sadie is just super duper whenever she puts together a piece or works on something. There are some realities that we're dealing with, especially when you look at the data center report on poverty and income in this city. Since the collaborative was formed, African Americans are actually faring worse per capita when you look at the amount of money and when you look at participation. And so the comment was made about legislation. Legislation doesn't always mean participation. Legislation means legislation, but the enforcement side and the participation side isn't always there. I think each of us have worked to try, how do we close that wealth gap? How do we make sure that just because we pass an ordinance, that it hasn't played out in the lives of African American women and African American men when you talk about contracting and when you talk about overall affecting the overall income in the city. The gap is wider than it was pre-Katrina. It's wider than it was when the collaborative was formed. So how do we begin to take a look at how do we close that gap? Ms. Gould mentioned 12 to 15 days. Well, 30 days is a target, but we know bills are usually due twice, payments twice during the month. So the 30-day gap actually doesn't solve that. So one of the things that we've been doing, I know Councilmember Green and I, and with the administration, we've been talking about how do we actually strengthen that piece, right? And this legislation is great, but I just remember the great job that Councilmember Moreno and Sadie did to offer the friendly amendment on the ban-the-box. How do you make it better? How do you strengthen it, right? Because we can always do that. So in talking to the administration, Joe Threat, Finance Department, they actually believe that 15 days is doable. That would meet that timeline you talk about with
Absolutely.
12 to 15. Also in talking to the Finance Department and the director and the administration, they think formal agreements between the sub and the prime would make it even more binding. Because in many cases, the agreements are informal. You're my sub. There isn't anything written or submitted that binds that agreement, right? That actually holds that prime to feet to the fire, especially when you talk about payment and participation. And then the other thing was that, so if 15 days works per Joe Threat, per finance, per the administration, if binding agreements, where written agreements can be submitted in terms of the formal relationship, and the city can use that binding agreement, I would like to offer a friendly amendment where Dominique will work with Sadie to make sure that we even strengthen this effort that you're in front of, so that those binding agreements and those 15 days, if they say it can be met, then let's hold their feet to the fire. Let's get them to do it, and let's have offered or submitted as part of the contracts an actually formal agreement between the subs and the prime. And so when the ordinance comes up, I would love to be able to have everyone's support for that friendly amendment that makes this historic legislation even stronger.
Thank you, Councilman.
Thank you guys for your fight on this.
Yeah, I mean,
Councilman
I
Thomas.
would just need to make sure that how workable this is, particularly since we're talking about like new contracts between the subs and the primes, and also switching up all of net 30 to 15 days. I just don't want to delay this, so I know that there's been a lot of work that got us to this, many months of work, and so I would rather move forward with this, and then Councilmember Thomas, we can then begin a new round, because it'll probably take quite some time to get us, a few months probably, if we're going to get to where you're at.
Well, when you're talking about friendly amendments that strengthen something historically, all it does is tighten up and strengthen the intent of the original. It's similar to what you did with my ordinance, right? So we didn't have to go through a whole
No, I
process.
I did a whole new ordinance.
Yeah, but it
Yeah.
was, yeah.
Well, that's what I'm talking about.
But this
We're-
is just
we're-
an amendment, which is actually
No,
less cumbersome.
but here's the deal. So we did a whole
Mm-hmm.
new ordinance to what you had because we didn't know what kind of delay it would take for me to put in the friendly amendment. So I'd rather, us go ahead and get the strengthening here that's happened over the past several months. And then we can work it through with the administration and Dominique and everyone else and bring in the collaborative so that everyone has a full understanding of what's going on instead of just trying to talk about it over 5 minutes. And then we'll go from there.
Well, I was hoping we could avoid this part because many times we are hit with, especially certain folks, amendments at the last minute. And we could kind of replay the tape, right? Especially if people are trying to get involved on stuff that we think is good.
Look, I 100% agree with you.
Yeah,
And that's
so
why I
I'll-
didn't want to do an amendment in
Yeah.
5 minutes to your ordinance. And that's why we passed your ordinance as it was. And then we all went back to the drawing room.
Yeah.
We worked on it for about 6 weeks, maybe 2 months. And then I came back with an updated ordinance.
Well, you never want to delay success because we've passed the legislation before and it hasn't impacted black wealth. It hasn't impacted the wealth of especially African-American women. It hasn't impacted black families in this community. So this is an opportunity. The administration says it can be done within 15 days. It also says that those formal agreements would actually strengthen the relationship. So just think about it. You don't have to worry about the whim of the contractor because that agreement between the contractor and the sub is actually part of the submittal and part of the contract that was accepted.
All of that sounds like it could be great, but obviously the administration hasn't had conversations with the collaborative, explain how it would all work. Worked with Sadie, who's done tremendous research into this, along with our law department, which is our executive counsel, and Anita, on making all these different pieces work. And the new contractual agreements, I think we really would need to have further discussions as to how that all would
Well, let
play
me
out.
say this. You use the words, it sounded like it would be great. We've done a lot of things here that sounded like it would be great, but it didn't close the wealth gap. It didn't, what was the disparity study? As many cases actually showed more glaring gaps in it. So we don't want it to sound like it's great because we've been sounding good.
And see, that's the thing. I 100% agree with you. Because on the sounding great thing, we've actually passed some great pieces of legislation, and the problem is that it wouldn't get implemented. We did the scorecards with the collaborative. We're still waiting for that to be implemented. DBE Protege Program was an amazing piece of legislation. It couldn't get implemented.
Well,
And this, we worked like crazy to make sure that it would be implemented.
Well,
And we have it
yeah.
ready to go now. So I say, let's go now with this, and we
well,
can certainly work to improve it
well,
down the road.
Yeah, I was
That sounds good.
talking, so, but we're good.
Awesome. Councilmember Morrell.
No, I wasn't finished yet.
Oh, I'm sorry. I thought you said you were done talking.
No. I couldn't be done talking because people were commenting in the middle of my comments. So we've had a lot of people who've said they were for something, but it hasn't played out in terms of the data, period. And it's actually gotten worse in the last 12 years. So the income gap has grown. So all I was trying to do with the friendly amendment, because we're all friendly up here, is make sure that we, at least, especially if the administration says they could do even better, if they could say it could be even more binding, was to offer those things. You know, it's always the will of the majority
Yep.
in a democracy, whether you want to deal with something now or whether you want to deal with something later. But what we do know is the community and our contractors are hurting now.
Yep.
So it was just an opportunity to strengthen the work that you and Sadie have done, especially because I think everybody up here is interested in closing the wealth gap.
Absolutely.
In a city where the majority demographic is suffering economically, in a city where we know that women contractors not only have to worry about getting paid, but what they make on a dollar compared to other people is actually absolutely crazy, right? So it was just an opportunity to help, and you know, that's all we were trying.
And I really appreciate
Well, I know you do.
your willingness to help, and I agree with you 100%. Let's do something now and work toward constantly improving this moving forward. Councilmember Morrow?
Yeah, I just want to highlight two things. First, for those who sit on budget, it took over a year to get the administration to do net 30 properly. We were here with the primes with a backlog of people, and we had the shame walk from every department for about a year to get them together on net 30 just for the primes. And certainly, I believe that when we add this new element, which is doing the subs as well, when we did original net 30, we were told by the administration, this is going to be seamless. We don't have any contracts that are longer than 30 days, and that was absolutely not correct, because obviously we sat here through budget and had the shame walk. I think the expectation we should have, and a reasonable one, is that when we now add primes to the mix, the perp walk is going to be back, and they'll be walking up all the primes, because as you said, one of the big challenges you're going to have is really enforcing on a very basic level, making sure that we make primes communicate to subs when they're paid. Because the challenge our subs have always had is that our primes sometimes delay paying subs because they have their own cash flow issues. And it should not be on the back of subs to have their payment withheld because a prime has cash flow issues. So I think this is in a lot of ways, once again, us trying to build a plane in midair. I think that is probably going to take a couple of weeks, if not a couple of months, to get the administration at a point where they've worked out the issues with the primes to make sure subs have information, to have the communication set up between procurement and the subs to have that direct communication. And I mean, certainly I would believe the hope should be, just like we have net 30 has gotten to a point, I would say with some hurdles, because we're still hearing from primes that are being told, I haven't been paid in 2 months. And we find out that from the administration perspective, because a piece of paperwork wasn't filled out properly and they weren't notified, they're holding up bills. So I think it's a good first step. I don't think, and I think the collaboratives represented, this is not a silver bullet. We're not going to solve you guys not getting paid timely. We're really starting the conversation with this. And I think that what also I'd like to ask, is there anyone from the administration here from procurement? So, I mean, I think part of the issue is going to be that we're probably going to get feedback from the administration, though you've both been working with them, on how we do net 30 for subs as to how difficult it is or isn't to implement it. So I would certainly think that based upon the administration's past performance with net 30 for primes, I think that net 30 for subs is going to also require a learning curve. So I would certainly not like to put us in a position where we're set up for failure, because we haven't even tried net 15 with primes yet, let alone doing all of that simultaneously. That's my perspective.
Sadie, why don't you walk us through the ordinance?
That's pretty dramatic.
I know.
Thank you, everyone. Good morning, council members. I'm delighted to join you all this morning to walk the body through Ordinance 35-177. And I'd like to thank Deborah and Ernest for laying out the basis of this ordinance. And not to be repetitive, but I would like to walk through the things we're hearing the most. So our council office on numerous occasions has received not only outreach from our folks at the Collaborative, but also from members of the public who are suppliers and subcontractors. And oftentimes the thrust of this outreach focuses on who can I speak to get paid? I haven't been paid. What department do I speak to? Do I speak to procurement? Do I reach out to the CAO's office? And so right now what we're dealing with at best is an ad hoc process for some of our city's smallest businesses to get paid timely. And the reason getting paid timely is so important is it creates an atmosphere of professionalism and trust, not only between prime contractors and our subs, between the city of New Orleans and businesses looking to do business here. It also encourages, as Deborah and Ernest mentioned, suppliers and subcontractors to do business with city-funded contracts. So often there are bids that go out to the public and RFPs, and we often see lack of response, and many times that relates to timely payment. It also helps to uphold contractual project deadlines, and I mean that not only on a large scale to ensure that primes are executing according to bid and project deadlines, but also internally, to ensure subs are able to pay their employees. They're able to have invoices to purchase materials. And all of this helps to make sure that projects are moving forward as they're scheduled to be. And to that point, it mitigates delays and ensures that our residents are getting the services and the work done in their neighborhoods at a timely fashion. And finally, it helps to prevent financial hardships from our subcontractors and suppliers, but also prevents these types of interactions from turning into legal issues for not only the city, but for those who have bid on projects. I'd like to clarify one thing. This ordinance establishes a brand new section of the code, so anything contained herein does not impact previously passed Net 30 legislation. That project is entirely separate, and again, this ordinance does not amend existing legislation. What it does do is establish Section 70-431 of timely payment and subcontractors and suppliers, and ensures that contractors pay subs or suppliers within 30 days of their receipt of payment from the city of New Orleans. In this ordinance, we have defined what an undisputed amount is, which is worker supplies paid with no good faith defense to payment. Most importantly, feedback I've heard from the Collaborative is that, again, there is no process whatsoever in the city of New Orleans for our subs and suppliers to be paid. And so what this does is set up a process for resolution for disputed claims and provides remedies and waivers where appropriate. And finally, to underscore the work that we've done here already, we have worked with the Law Department, Finance, Office of Supplier Diversity, and stakeholders like the Collaborative to make sure that this instrument is in its best possible posture. I will also like to reiterate and work with our Executive Council for the City Council. We looked at sample legislation from throughout the country. This particular instrument is based upon legislation in Maryland. After drafting an initial version of this instrument, I met with stakeholders from the Collaborative, as well as with our Executive Council. And the feedback at that time was the timelines are too long. And so this instrument reflects even shortened timelines than what the model legislation from Maryland did. Part of that feedback about shortening any further, this is a brand new process, as Councilmember Morell emphasized. And I think that the implementation of Net 30, while it has been a great encouragement, and I think we've seen primes get paid a lot faster, did take a lot of time to smooth out the wrinkles. And so what we have here is an already condensed timeline based on models I've seen elsewhere in the country. All right, so, this is the macro level part of the ordinance. prompt payment is required, and that is contractors must pay their subs and suppliers within 30 days of receiving a payment from the City of New Orleans for those undisputed amounts invoiced by our subs and suppliers. This also puts the burden on departments that should there be any outreach from both primes or subs, that the department must respond within 2 business days and inform the parties of the built-in dispute resolution process contained in 35-177. Again, you know, as Deborah and Ernest underscored, right now subs and suppliers are left to their own devices in order to get payment. And right now, there is no clear process to do so. So at the outset, we wanted to make sure everyone was on a level playing field and that this process is communicated to everyone clearly. As mentioned, this ordinance sets up a dispute resolution process. So any entity that contracts with the city or its agencies shall be deemed to agree and abide by these dispute resolution procedures. And I will get into city contracts and language that must be included therein a little later in the presentation. Should a contractor note that 30-day process payment will not be executed, they must notify the subcontractor in writing as well as notify the department. What we're trying to do here is ensure transparency, the creation of a public record, and start the time clock. In that dispute of delayed payment, the subcontractor can notify the department and the Office of Supplier Diversity, if they're a certified DBE only, for non-timely payment, and if the disputes outlined in the contractor notification they take issue with. The reason this is important, again, is we want to make sure that departments are, again, creating a record of non-payment. And we further want the Office of Supplier Diversity to be alerted when our primes who have submitted bid applications and submitted responses to RFPs are not timely paying our DBE community. In the dispute notice, we're asking that folks list the contractor name, the project, dispute, any documentation substantiating the subcontractor's entitlement to payment, and an explanation of any dispute concerning non-payment if known. And finally, outreach to the contractor. The department contacts contractor within 5 business days to confirm the amount is in dispute. Now again, in a lot of model legislation, we saw these timelines much longer, and at the request of the collaborative, we worked to shorten them throughout this process. I think it would behoove us to give this process a fair shake and see how it goes. But ultimately, you know, there are concerns about holidays. If a staff member in a department who's managing this is out on vacation, these timelines have been thoughtfully crafted to ensure workability, not only for City of New Orleans staff to effectively respond, but in order to do their due diligence well in these time periods. Determination of undisputed amount. If the contractor fails to respond within the 5 days outlined, or if the department determines that part or all the payment is undisputed, the department must notify the contractor and the subcontractor in writing, and the contractor must pay within 5 days. And I'd like to note the reason this is going through departments. We had initially drafted to go through the Office of Procurement and was requested by the administration to have this process run through the departments, the administering department, most familiar with the contractor and the parties involved. Should the subcontractor not be paid within 5 days, we've requested that departments hold a meeting with all parties within 10 business days, and that can be in person or virtual. Again, noting the very short timeline that we're putting departments under. This meeting, I think, will be important for transparency from all parties in that bid documents and signed contracts will be furnished to all parties. And the department may request any additional materials as needed from either the primes or sub-suppliers. That's important because subs and suppliers will have the opportunity to submit invoices that may have gone unpaid, can show documentation of the purchase of supplies, can show payroll expenses, et cetera, and any costs incurred as they execute during the time period described. And as mentioned, the contractor has 10 days to pay after that final decision is rendered. Also, legislation we look to throughout the nation included enforcement and penalty provisions. Failure of the contractor to pay can result in suspension of work under the contract due to failure to meet its obligations. Working with the law department and our executive council, we included liquidated damages not to exceed 100 days from the date the undisputed amount was initially due. Earlier, I spoke to starting the time clock and creating public records, and that's why that step is so important. And enforcement of any available payment bond. This was flagged by the law department for inclusion. And again, this payment bond and surety bond requires that for any labor or materials for a project are paid to contract terms. And it ensures that subs and suppliers receive payment even if the contractor defaults. And this is a provision that's often included in contracts. And finally, the city may cease payments to the contractor until compliance is verified. We did include here an appeals process that the CAO may be the ultimate arbiter of an appeals process should the department's final decision be appealed. As I mentioned earlier, this ordinance requires the inclusion of city contract provisions, to boost compliance, because ultimately everything this body does to date has been to ensure timely payment of our city's businesses. And those many small businesses need our assistance and need this legislation in order to encourage timely payment. So number one, we want to boost compliance. And obviously, we want to make all parties aware of the dispute resolution process and remedies available in the contract they are signing with the City of New Orleans. And finally, the law department flagged the need for waivers. These often involve public entities or software companies where standard subcontractor relationships are less than standard. And so we included that at the request of the city's law department. And ultimately, that is it. I'm certainly available for any questions on the process or how we got to this final draft.
Thank you, Sadie. Is there any public comment?
Thank you.
Councilmember Green.
Thank you very much, Sadie, for that presentation. I appreciate it. I look to the collaborative and say that you've heard words like the administration and the contractor and things that were on the city side. I want to just impress upon you that an organization such as yours, an advocacy group, should recognize the shortcomings within the city sometimes in terms of communication. I may not know whether the CAO has stopped the payment that is supposed to be stopped. I may not know whether the meeting has taken place. I just want to emphasize and appreciate and thank you all for the role that you have and recognizing that there's going to be a new administration soon to start that pressure early, but to do what you can to encourage your members to let us know sometimes what's going on. There might be a lot of contracts out there, and I don't know. Use the department, use this particular committee. There'll be a new chair of this committee, for example, soon in January. But let the committee know and encourage your members to share with us what we need to know in addition to their communication with the administration. That's all. I appreciate your advocacy role, and that's such an important role to continue even after this is passed, all right? Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Green. And thank you to the collaborative for all your work. With that, I've made a motion to approve. It's been seconded by Council President Morrell. All in favor, 5 yeas, no nays. Thank you all.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, that brings us to item number 3, presentation from El Centro. This is an organization providing culturally competent financial wellness programming, business coaching, and entrepreneurial training to Latinx individuals and entrepreneurs in South Louisiana.
Sorry. Obviously, left and right. Okay. So good.
Why don't you go ahead and take one of the middle seats, because I think those microphones are working better today.
That sounds great.
Yeah.
Let's see if I can steal the mouse is going to be the challenge.
That means a lot on my birthday.
It's your birthday. Happy birthday.
Hey, Sadie, can you do the slides for her?
You want to be my buddy today? Sounds fantastic.
That one's good, yeah.
Thank you so much.
How exciting. How do you want me to cue you? Just want to tap.
And you can start whenever you're ready and introduce yourself.
Great, thank you so much. Thank you, Councilmember Moreno and the Economic Development Committee for having me today. My name is Lindsay Navarro, and I'm the founder and executive director of El Centro. And I'm excited to share a bit about the work we at El Centro are doing to advance Latino economic development and prosperity here in New Orleans. It's truly an honor to be here to share our story. I founded El Centro in 2018, 7 years ago to date, thanks to seed funding from the Mexican consulate. They were seeking a nonprofit organization to manage their financial literacy window, or Ventanilla de Educación Financiera, and found me. I started by providing one-on-one coaching and teaching biweekly financial workshops and reached more than 800 Spanish speakers in that first year. Today, I have a team of 7 amazing women working with me daily. Next slide. To date, we've led more than 436 workshops for more than 7,000 Spanish-speaking attendees and have coached more than 2,200 people. Thanks to our hybrid programming, our workshops on social media have reached more than 256,000 Spanish speakers. During the pandemic, we were frontline support for Latino business owners, helping them secure $1.1 million in small business loans, nearly $500,000 in PPP forgivable loans, and facilitated the deployment of $174,000 in microgrants to individuals with taxpayer identification numbers with 3 volunteers. This is a lot. But I'd like to put some of this into perspective. According to the US Census Bureau, there are more than 65.2 million people in the United States who identify as Hispanic. What does it mean to be Hispanic? Well, being of Hispanic origin can refer to one's heritage, nationality, lineage, country of birth, or even where the person's parents or ancestors were born. And people who identify as Hispanic, Latino, or Spanish can be of any race. Here in Louisiana, next slide please. There are more than 321,000 people who identify as Hispanic or Latino. That's nearly 7% of the state's population. We have the 34th largest Hispanic statewide population in the United States, higher than our neighboring states of Alabama and Arkansas. Next. Nearly 40% of that number, more than 126,000 Latinos, live in the greater New Orleans metro area, making up 13% of the metro area's population. And when we look at the growth and the table on this page, you can see that the Hispanic population from 2000 to 2023 has nearly tripled in Orleans, St. Bernard, Jefferson, St. Charles, and St. John parishes. Next slide. According to the 2022 annual business survey, approximately 5.9% of businesses in Louisiana are Latino. That's more than 28,000 businesses, of which 7% have at least 1 employee. Which brings me to the most recently astonishing fact, that Louisiana leads the United States with the highest percentage of Latino entrepreneurs according to data from the Latino Data Hub. 15.9% of Louisiana's Latino population are actually entrepreneurs. No, go back, yes. I'd like for you to meet Saul Alcazar, who couldn't be with us today, but he's the proud owner of Café Tomás. He came to El Centro in 2019 for assistance with filing his occupational license for his first location in Kenner. Since then, he opened a second location on Carrollton, and a few months ago opened a third location on the North Shore. Once a general manager at the Sizzler Steakhouse, he's now planning to convert his concept into a franchise. This is just one example of how important it is for burgeoning entrepreneurs to have access to entrepreneurial resources. Next slide. So what exactly are we doing? We've deployed hybrid-style entrepreneurial and financial wellness programming that's culturally competent and language accessible. We've combined our personalized coaching and monthly workshops in topics that range from credit and budgeting to entrepreneurship and business administration to create business accelerator programming for startups, informal, and established businesses to ensure our community has the tools to grow and scale. Since 2022, more than 140 entrepreneurs have graduated from our 7-week business accelerator program, Impulsate. We launched this program after receiving complaints from our customers who said that insurance companies weren't willing to pay them for the remodeling of the homes that had been damaged during Hurricane Ida. It was at this time, or at this moment, that many realized that they needed occupational licenses, not just LLCs registered in the state of Louisiana to get paid for their work. This program is now open to a variety of businesses. We've had janitorial service providers, caterers, bakers, professional service providers, and even retail owners participate in this program. This program equips participants with key information such as digital marketing, best practices, insurance coverage, accounting, hiring and contracting labor, government certifications like the DBE certification, and access to capital. The majority of participants were not even aware of the various government-issued certifications or how to even find contracting opportunities within the municipalities. Our Cómo Iniciar una Empresa, or How to Start a Business, bi-monthly workshop in partnership with the Hispanic Chamber of Commerce of Louisiana walks aspiring business owners through the business registration process, including navigating the ins and outs of permitting and licensing. More than 400 people have participated in this program to date. In the summers, we host a startup accelerator called Atrévete, and we just finished a cohort, which means Dare to Launch. This 5-week course gives aspiring entrepreneurs the tools to succeed. They create a customer profile, a lean canvas model, and develop financial projections to ensure that they have a plan in place before they even launch their businesses. Those who engage in an appointment to help them start a business leave with a business startup guide, where they can keep all of their business information in one place. And I brought that startup guide for you all to scope out. It's actually kind of cool. Has not been copyrighted yet, but it's not quite copywritten, but very exciting. And this guide allows them to keep all of their business information in one place, including their charter number, their FEIN, their occupational license and sales tax numbers. And when they're able to hire, they can flip to the back of the trifold to get a clear understanding of what it takes to hire an employee. We've helped more than 150 new business owners secure their articles of organization through the Secretary of State and helped countless renew their registrations because they were not aware that this was even a requirement by the state. More than 30 have received support in obtaining occupational licenses and assistance with collecting and remitting sales taxes. To close out Hispanic Heritage Month, we host a Spanish language business summit, or Cumbre Empresarial, which is what you see here in the photos, that convenes more than 150 business owners, entrepreneurial resource partners, and experts each year. And I'd venture to say it's the only free Spanish language business summit in the state of Louisiana. Next slide. Thanks to the New Orleans Recreation and Culture Fund, last year, we've been able to grow the size of, or receiving funding from the fund, we've been able to grow the size of our women's empowerment program, Las Musas. This is a monthly meetup for Latina entrepreneurs. We've created a space where they can learn from one another and share their stories and experiences with each other. We curate speakers to address common challenges faced by Latina entrepreneurs who serve as matriarchs of our society, balancing their families, businesses, finances, and so much more. We honor our culture and heritage with a beautiful rooftop gathering where we dress in folkloric attire and remember and celebrate our unique cultures and nationalities. We were recently invited to co-host our first ribbon cutting in the French Quarter for 2 of our musas. You see the top one on the top right. The ribbon cutting was for Scarlett and Elsa Paniagua, a mother-daughter, the owners of Abbott's Frozen Custard. The $25,000 that we received made it possible for us to serve nearly 400 musas from 2024 to present. In 2020, in the midst of the pandemic, next slide, please. We launched our 2 most popular and impactful financial wellness programs. The first being VITA, Volunteer Income Tax Assistance Program, a free tax preparation service available to all those whose income is below $65,000 per year. Through this program, we've trained more than 50 Spanish-speaking volunteers to file returns. They made it possible for 685 families to file returns, securing more than $667,000 in refunds in 4 years. This year, our VITA volunteers prepared 456 returns, securing $571,000 in federal tax refunds. This is a mobile program where we host pop-ups or tax preparation days around the city, leveraging the libraries and community centers to ensure New Orleanians don't have to go far to file their returns. More than 35% of our clients are first-time filers. We love celebrating this financial milestone with a gold balloon and a round of applause and cheering every time. That brings me to one of my favorite stories. At the top right, you'll see Telma Villeda. She found El Centro during tax season a few years ago, and she had an informal cleaning business. And when our volunteer preparer and financial coach, Belen Fernandez, asked her what she wanted to accomplish by filing her return, she said she wanted to buy a home. At that moment, Belen had prepared a basic income statement for Telma, and she explained to her that with the amount of income and expenses she was reporting, she probably couldn't secure the financing needed to buy a bicycle. The two of them laughed. Telma had been operating an informal cash business. Belen convinced her to participate in Camino Financiero, or Financial Pathways, a 2-month-long financial wellness program that combines 4 workshops with 2 financial coaching appointments. In this program, Telma learned to read her credit report, she built a budget, she started to take on healthy debt to build her credit score. She actually participated in the program twice and completed it successfully the second time around. She was able to purchase a home and is helping her son buy his own home. She graduated from the most recent cohort and had the highest credit score in the class. Telma isn't alone. Of the 220 program graduates, at least 20 have purchased homes that we know of. In 2022, we surveyed program graduates that were able to ascertain that 32% reported an increase in savings and access to credit. 42% experienced a credit score. In fact, the average score increase during those 2 months was 20 points, which is pretty high. I should add, for the record, that there's not one certified Spanish language first-time home buyer program in the state of Louisiana, making it quite challenging for native Spanish speakers to access down payment assistance. In 2024, El Centro was next slide please. We were one of 10 organizations selected to receive the Economic Mobility in Motion funding from the City of New Orleans. Through the American Rescue Plan Act, our goal has been to bring our language-accessible programming to 1,200 residents living in the City of New Orleans. Over 3 years, we've served 511 people so far. Prior to this, we were able to collaborate with the Office of Economic Development and the National League of Cities to support the creation of a YouTube video that explains to New Orleans residents in Spanish how they can secure an occupational license for their business through the one-stop shop permitting and license portal. And it includes a 1-page tutorial, which I brought for you all today, with the actual steps in Spanish. Over the last 3 years, we've engaged in thought partnership with the Mayor's Office of Human Rights and Equity to work towards the city's recognition as a certified welcoming city. Most recently, we participated in numerous conversations leading to the development of the new municipal ID, the Crescent City ID, which we believe will improve the occupational licensing identity verification, process by providing identity for those who are applying, or proof of identity for those who are applying. We're also plugged into the entrepreneurial ecosystem, serving on the Community Advisory Council of the Tulane Innovation Center, and are members of the Sea Change Collective Steering Committee and Small Business Working Group, whose mission is to address the growing wealth gap in partnership with the Urban League of Louisiana and various entrepreneurial and economic development institutions. Lastly, we serve as a voice of the Gulf South, serving on the board of the National Association for Latino Community Asset Builders. My ask to you all, we recently applied to the New Orleans Recreation and Culture Fund again this year and asked for the maximum amount of financial support. We would greatly appreciate your consideration and investment, as this money will be used to continue to expand our programming across the city, making it possible for El Centro to serve even more residents in a time when the community is feeling more alone than ever. Thank you all for your time.
Thank you, Ms. Navarro, and this is exactly why I wanted to bring you here today, so that you can make, not just obviously the council members, but the public as a whole, for everyone to understand the level of work that you all do and what type of services are really available. When you came through my office, I don't know, however many months ago this was, and you were showing me all the different things that El Centro has grown to now be able to do, I was like, oh, people don't know enough about this. So thank you so much for coming before us today. Councilmember Harris.
Yeah, Lindsay, it's good to see you. I know that our office in the past has supported you through HERA's grants to the tune of $1,600, but then last year gave $20,000 to help support your programming. So obviously you've applied again to our office, and we will look to support you again. My question is, how much money do you get from state, federal, and city sources? Because we know, given issues in office, that federal funds are going to dry up and state funds are likely to dry up as well.
Yeah, I'm fortunate to be able to report that the majority of our funding comes from private foundations. So we have supporters like the Kellogg Foundation, the JP Morgan Chase Foundation, their global philanthropy arm, Capital One as well. And the money received from the city, the economic mobility money, is something we seek to parlay to gain more interest from national funders to support the work. I think that we can't do this work alone. It is truly an honor to have the city and local government support an organization like ours. As we grow, there's so many opportunities to pursue CDBG funding, EDA funding as well. And in the past, we have received state funding, but the funding received from the city was just, I think, has truly moved the needle in our ability to do the work. And so I'm really thankful for your ongoing support. And I know that the Economic Development Office is pursuing more federal funds that would then come to the city. The additional support from the City Council makes it possible, I think, for us to feel even more secure in projecting the growth in the work that we're continuing to do.
Yeah, I think it's great. Where would you like to see more of a presence in what areas of the city? I mean, certainly I could use you, and I can tell you where I need you. And so could all the other council members, but where would you like to see your organization grow?
Well, so historically, there's been a larger population of Latinos within the Mid-City area and off the Broad Corridor, and that's where we are actually housed. We recently did an analysis of the zip codes that we were currently serving, and we felt that our office location, as much as I wanted to move everywhere else, was actually centrally located to the consumers or to our customers. But what I love about the work that we're doing specifically, well, all of the work that we're doing, is our ability to be mobile. And so that's something you'll see through the VITA program, where we've gone to the various libraries in the various city council districts to offer our services directly to the community. And so I would say, I would welcome an open invite from you all. We will be there as much as we possibly can. And something that we're working on as an organization is to build up a team of volunteers who can also support the work that we're doing to help with outreach. In the same manner that we've recruited so many to do tax preparation, we're hoping to have those volunteers support that work. So any invite to any event, any activity where you feel that we need to be there, we would be more than happy to oblige.
I really appreciate that, and one of the things that I'm going to focus on in my next term is succession planning and making sure that all of our people understand the need for succession planning. It just is so impactful on families, but it also helps with blight prevention and remediation. So making sure that people understand what they need to do to protect themselves and their families. So I'd love to see that from you all moving forward. David, I see you back there shaking your head too.
Yes. We're actually in the works because a part of asset building work is not just attaining assets, it's protecting those once we have them.
Yep.
And I think the more education we can provide in providing the business owners that we've supported as well as those homeowners, we're more than happy to work towards those efforts.
And then finally, we did recently meet with Big Brothers Big Sisters. They're dying to partner with you, and so we'll get you in contact with them. Thank you.
Please, thanks. Thank you so much.
All right, I don't see any other questions. Lindsay, thank you so much for your time. Appreciate it. Keep up the great work.
Thank you all. Thank you so much.
That'll make a motion to adjourn if I can get a second. Seconded by Councilmember Harris. All in favor? Aye, and we are adjourned.